One. Hi, Amit. Welcome to the NTM Growth Marketing Podcast. I'm excited to be speaking with you today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Excited as well.
Before we hit record, something you brought up I thought was really interesting, which I want to expand upon. You come from a non-marketing background, turned into a marketer. And a lot of times I'm speaking with people who their entire career has been marketing oriented. So I would love for you to share a little bit of your background, what brought you
Sure,
into the world of marketing.
sure.
And go right
So
ahead. Love to hear your answer.
right. So basically, I started as a lawyer. So I'm not coming from a typical kind of marketing background. And after a year in that, I said, yeah, that is not for me. And went to strategic consulting, and I did that for almost 15 years with a big company like Ernst Young here in Israel, and they're very strong in tech. And most of my work were either corporate strategy or commercial due diligence. And that piece was a lot to do with VCs and private equities investing in tech. They really need to break down business plans, investor presentations, et cetera, and find the connection to market drivers. So I really come from the world of kind of competitive environment and competitive strategy. But at some point, I felt like I really wanted to dig deeper into tech companies and find a better value prop. And I found that with basically my first role in the marketing domain, which was a Trail. It's a narrative design agency that does only B2B tech companies. And there I was VP strategy and kind of brought the side of business and commercial into building narratives, messaging hierarchies, visual stories, etc., that are dependent on your marketing analysis, market analysis, competitor analysis, etc. So that's kind of my way into the marketing world.
So before we hit record again, in your own words, you said you decided to eat your own dog food. I think that's what you said. If you went from the strategy consulting
Yeah.
side to being in-house at a company, why did you make that shift to Infinipoint, and what really inspired you to join the company?
Right. So after working with, I think almost 30, 40 B2B companies from different domains, from healthcare, fintech, cyber, AI, it's a very pressing process of finding and the aspiring the challenge or the positioning for each company. And you don't have a lot of control over what's going to happen later with the brand and the narrative that you built. And I really wanted to test the water because I strongly believed, and I still do, in that process of one narrative for the company from the CEO level to the last of the employees. How do we tell the story? How does it, convey our message to potential investors, to analysts, etc. And then came this opportunity with Infinipoint, which were exactly in that phase of a confusion in the market and convergence of categories with great technology that needed to find a better way to tell the story. And so I said, yeah, that's the opportunity for me to take the bite and try and do what it is that I was preaching on doing.
So what is your role at Infinipoint, and tell us a little bit about the company?
Right. So I'm head of marketing at Infinipoint. Infinipoint is a cybersecurity company. We are in the domains of workforce access. And the basic thing that we do is we protect the login. We want to make sure your data and resources is not breached. And we do that by putting a control over the login. Now, this is not something new, right? Workforce access, you have companies like Okta, Microsoft, basically divide the market. But there's one element missing, which is the device element. Credentials, passwords are all very easily stolen by any 16-year-old hacker. And if I really want to assert that Andrew is Andrew when he's getting into his database, I need to make sure it's coming from an approved device and a safe device. And this element is something that was missing outside in the market. And this is something that we, I think, bring very well.
I want to hear your take on storytelling in such a intense space of cybersecurity. So I say this because I remember in the 90s as a kid and watching TV commercials, making donations to, organizations in Africa. And it was always just very hard to watch videos of starving kids, or if it's animal abuse, they're showing videos of such graphic detail of dogs that have been in dogfighting rings and stuff like that. And so I could see Infinipoint being in that same world of scaring the crap out of people. Because anytime I hear about cybersecurity, I get so paranoid. So tell us a little bit about your approach to storytelling and how does that play out at your company?
Okay, so I think first of all that every narrative for a B2B tech company is a bit different, and I think I want to start a bit higher on the process level. And I think Ben Horowitz from Harvard Anderson said, your story is your strategy, and this is where we're trying to take, both for Atreo clients, but also now for Infinipoint, where we're trying to take that and find in a sweet spot in the market. And this is the basic approach. I think if you imagine a minute with me a playground, which is your market and your categories, which are a very big question, especially in cyber, right? What is my category? What is my market? And then imagine three circles within it, like Venn circle. One is your customer needs. One is your competitor's value proposition and marketing claims. And one is your own capabilities. And then your narrative should be based upon that overlapping area between client needs, your abilities and strengths, and excluding competitors' value proposition and marketing claims, right? And that small piece, if you can really imagine those three Venn circles, you can imagine there are different kind of value propositions that are uniquely possessed to you as a company that answer a specific need of your customers. And this is what positioning is about, trying to find that sweet spot, or in other methodologies, blue ocean, so to speak, and finding that place is the basis. So in there, you look for basically your USP. And from that, you can really build a messaging hierarchy and a coherent narrative to take on. Now, the challenge, as you've rightfully said, in cyber, scare stories are kind of a leading thing. And this is, if you ask pretty simply, what CISOs want is more security for less work and less money, right? This is a simplification of that. And sometimes you need to find the different angle. And what we did is try to break it more analytically and really put a spotlight on what is missing and what's doing wrong in the current way of doing things. So probably this construct of an old way, new way approach that maybe Andy Raskin and you're following is always using that for narratives and strategic narratives. So basically pinpointing what is broken in the current way of doing things and how it needs to be fixed. Of course, it resides under a scare story in a sense, but you're trying not to make it around the scare story. And I think you can accomplish that with a great visual story that I'll be happy to expand if you want.
I have a question. I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction, and it's this. So I would love to hear from you what your experience has been like, right now as Amit, working at a tech company, a startup in a very demanding space, while your country is at war. And I say that because I want to just hear from your point of view, what has this been like in such a high demanding environment, but, looking outside your window, it's even more intense. What's this experience been like for you as a marketer?
So I think, first of all, it is obviously challenging on a personal level, on a professional level. I think Israeli tech is and was always the locomotive of the Israeli economy, and the more advanced part of our what we want to be look like in the world, and where we can lead and bring a lot of value. And I think the Israeli tech resilience is very impressive. I think I'm speaking in the name of our clients that showed support and going to conferences, etc. I really feel that A, we get support from our ecosystem, and B, that our ecosystem is also mobilizing to try and convey that narrative that we are currently feeling and living through, and trying to contribute from our end. Obviously, there are a lot of challenges, both personal and getting and conveying to your clients that you are disaster ready, that if something happens, electricity falls, whatever, you are here for them, that you've taken the measures as you should be, because I think Israeli tech has a great reputation of being professional and being very to the details. And I think that's most companies what they're trying to do and accomplish at that sense,
Mhm.
get that comfort to our clients.
Why do you think the Israeli tech scene is so strong? Have you ever marinated on why has it become such a driver of economic success in the country?
So two things. I think one, it's a very ancient Jewish culture of learning and being educated, and just the historical fact of not being to work in certain professions in the centuries ago
Right.
led a lot of Jewish people to get educated. So I think that's kind of it's not genetic; it's just a cultural theme that brought brought a lot of Jewish people to be scholars. And it's specifically in our domain. So obviously, as a country that is dealing with a lot of defense issues, in we need to have strong cyber capabilities. And
Mhm.
I always joke around and say we have more cyber companies than lawyers here in Israel.
Nice.
Because yeah, there is a great ecosystem of people that have worked together in a stressful environment in a very young age,
Mhm.
got educated in the same schools, and were, I think, encouraged for innovation and new ways of thinking. And there is something in our very, very small size that people don't realize sometimes because we get such a big portion of the news out there. But we are, we're smaller than the state of New York in terms of population and size, I think. And so it's a very, like, you have the law of degrees of separation. I think in Israel it's like two, not six, because it's really very close. You have a very strong social fabric. And, just looking at the WhatsApp groups of marketing people that I'm in, there is so much collaboration and knowledge
Mhm.
sharing and really trying to get everybody to succeed and seeing that as a national pride almost of
Mhm.
succeeding out there. So I think these are kind of foundations that led to that.
What's a area of marketing you're looking forward to in 2024?
Um, so I hope I'll get to that. I don't think it's almost over in 2024. And the long list of action items is still long, but I think there's a very interesting debate of how AI tools are going to come into the marketing domain. And I see two kind of different approaches. One that says, we'll give you the tools to do intent-based ABM, advertising generation, whatever, in which is buying a specific tool that does something for you versus a kind of do-it-yourself approach that says, build your own language model that talks to your brand personality, your world of content, your messaging, and then just grows it further.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure that's going to be in 2024, for me at least, but these are definitely areas where I'm very interested in and kind of scouting, looking, asking people, seeing what worked for them, and because I think that's very interesting direction that marketing is going to.
Do you think the AI, term, everything that's being developed, do you think it's overhyped, or do you think people are undervaluing just how powerful this is going to be?
Um, I don't know if it's overhyped. I'm sure it's going to take longer to get that impact that we think is going to happen. I think it has a tremendous potential within understanding people, understanding their way of thought. We already saw manipulations of that in social networks, in the worlds of politics and war,
Mhm.
and what countries can do with those tools. So the fear is there, and I don't think it's overhyped just because we can see already the influence it has. Um, Really hoping that it will go into better purposes and intents
Mhm.
to help teach children math better because the program understands better how they learn stuff fast, or how they understand things in general. Like there's so much potential there for augmenting what it is that we are capable that I'm an optimistic, so I'm trying to look at it that way. So I don't think it's overhyped, but I think like many other things, it's going to take a longer time than expected. It's not going to happen tomorrow. But yeah, really interesting to see where that goes.
I have a few last questions to wrap us up, and I want to hear from you in your day-to-day at Infinipoint. What do you enjoy most about your job in the day-to-day world of marketing?
So I always was a person that likes the variety of issues, right? So in a consulting company, you can work on 4 different industries and 7 different companies,
Mhm.
and it's always interesting. It's always fast-paced. And being in a relatively young startup, you touch upon a lot of issues, and marketing has become such a wide issue today of demand gen and social and messaging and content and a copy and design, 3D, 2D. So there's a lot of worlds of content that from the agency I was working with, I could see what good looks like. I can really know, okay, this is good copy, this is good social, this is good visual, this is good demand gen. And so touching on those multiple issues is very exciting for me. And it keeps me kind of, upbeat. And on top of that, add the energy of a young startup looking to prove itself, looking to go to market, celebrating every success and researching and checking every failure if there was to kind of what we did wrong, what we can do better, as kind of a more team effort to that, which is on a personal level just fun because you're working with good people trying to achieve something. So I think these are the professional and the energy level of a young startup.
So this is my last question for today, and I think you have a interesting background in the sense that you have been on the agency side and you've been on the client side. And I always hear complaints from one party about the other. Clients are saying, why aren't you doing this faster? You're charging too much. Agencies are going, you're cost cutting me. You're, demanding too much. So what advice do you have on both parties of how they can have a better partnership and relationship together if an organization does decide to outsource and bring in some agency support?
I think the key success factor would be a good brief.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Atreo, the agency I was working in, did a marvelous job and still doing a marvelous job of basically 2 departments within it. One is the strategy and kind of marketing that does the workshops and the clients and gets the USP and gets the basis of the narrative. Then you have the design team that do the visual language, which is sometimes more amplifying on how you want your clients to feel and how your story is conveyed in a non-verbal way. Now, these are 2 domains of people that are not really necessarily the same personas, don't speak necessarily the same languages, right? Design people, 3D people versus strategy consultants or marketing people are not necessarily the same thing. And I think in the world of marketing, you take a lot of agencies from different domains, and you need to know how to address them. And I think the moment the brief is accurate, then they can understand you better.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of obviously suppliers, and it takes time to find the common language. So I think just setting it sounds trivial, but setting expectations to really what it is you want to get and what good looks like. If you have in clarity on your end as a marketer, then the brief is not going to be that good, and then you're going to get a result that is not going to match your expectations because you didn't have 100% knowledge of what are your expectations. And on the agency side, I think you have that responsibility of saying, I didn't get you. I did not understand you. Let's do the brief again. Let's be very accurate about what it is we're going to have. Let's build a cadence of touch points.
Mm-hmm.
So we fail early if we do. I think this is my experience from both agency and company.
So lastly, can you share any links, social media handles, best ways to follow up with you as an individual or your company?
Sure. So you can find me at LinkedIn, Amit Aliman, Amit Aliman. And infinipoint.io is our website. You can go in and check out our great visual language and in all the work we put in the positioning of the company. And yeah, I'll be happy to connect on any subject around marketing, strategy, or obviously cybersecurity.
Perfect. Thank you, Amit. Appreciate your time today.
Sure. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, Andrew.